All right, welcome back, friends, citizens of the Do Hard Things Nation, to another episode of the Do Hard Things podcast. I'm Jay Teagues, certified high performance coach, transformational mindset coach. And on this episode of the Do Hard Things podcast, a fantastic conversation with my friend James Roberson, founder of the 516 Project, where we talk about disaster response. Before we get into today's conversation, just a couple things. Be sure to subscribe. Smash that subscribe button so you're notified of future episodes. Leave a review on Apple iTunes. They truly matter. They help us expand and grow the podcast. I read every one of them. And I just ask you, if you've gained any insights or any value from this podcast, take a minute to go over there, because it does help us expand our reach, and they truly do matter. So thank you for doing that. And if you gain some value from this podcast or anything else that we've done, take a screenshot. Tag me, share it with a couple of your friends, connect with me on social media. Let me know what your insights were. And that's how you can also help and expand. There's no doubt that the conversations that we're having over here could benefit and impact someone that you know in your life. And that's how we grow. This is a grassroots operation. So the tribe relies on the nation members themselves to help expand the word. So I appreciate you doing that. And this episode is sponsored by DHT Coaching and Consulting, where if you're looking for one-on-one coaching, you want to level up yourself, or maybe you're the leader of an organization and you want high-performance coaching for your team, or maybe you're looking to be part of a group or a mastermind, or maybe you need a guest speaker. Go to jteagues.com, JAYTIEGS.com, and you can look at the menu of options that are over there, and you can connect with me, and we can figure out what will best amplify you or your team. And check out Do Hard Things Apparel. Show the world that you do hard things by wearing an awesome shirt that's inspirational, because you can't slack when you're wearing something badass like, do hard things or grit or discipline or any of these things that we have. And that's the case for personal growth and development, is to be able to pivot more often when we're not on our A game. And that's the human dynamic. We're not always on our A game. Sometimes I just want to sit on the couch and binge out on Netflix, but then I look over and I see the Do Hard Things logo, or I got Do Hard Things written on my fireplace in this cool little chalkboard kind of thing. When I see that, it's like, man, I need to get up and go get that run in before I can engage in my leisure activities. Right. So show the world that you do hard things, high quality apparel, and show the world that you do hard things. And if you're not part of the Do Hard Things Nation, Do Hard Things Nation Facebook community, go over there, because we're dropping additional motivational content. We're doing the weekly wake up call over there, and also the Do Hard Things Nation community call Wednesday evenings. So, all right. So today we have a great conversation with James Roberson, founder of the 516 Project. And in this epic conversation with James, we talk about how the organization got started, basically how he transitioned from the 9 to 5 to found this organization. And so many people have great ideas. And we kind of talk about, like, what does that look like? How do you transition from the 9 to 5? Because that's scary for a lot of people. We discussed how James faced his fear, took bold action to found this amazing organization. And we also talk about considerations for disaster preparedness. James Roberson is the founder and president of the 516 Project, a nonprofit construction and disaster relief ministry. James's background in construction, disaster relief, entrepreneurship, and holding C-suite level positions in multiple companies has set him up for success in business and life. He initially founded the 516 Project as a side project and a way to give back to the community in 2016. Quickly, it became evident that God had bigger plans for the organization, and James went full-time in July of 2018. And James has led and coordinated groups of thousands of volunteers to help disaster victims recover and rebuild after floods, hurricanes, and tornadoes. You can contact James Roberson and the 516 Project at www.516project.org and connect with them if you'd like to support that organization and see more about what they do. So without further ado, let's get into today's episode. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Do Hard Things podcast. I'm your host, Jay Teagues. I'm excited to have in studio with us James Roberson. How you doing, brother?
Doing fantastic, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, James is the founder of the 516 Project. We met a few years ago on the interwebs in a personal growth and development group. He's a part of our community, the Forge community. and I'm excited to have him on. One of our topics not too long ago was about just general preparedness. So we had a few of our weekly calls on that topic. And James has been doing remarkable work with the 516 project. So I'm just going to hand the mic over to you, man. Just tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, man, appreciate it. And again, thanks so much for having me on, man. This is really fun. Um, yeah, so I started 516 Project in 2016, and basically we're a nonprofit construction ministry, and our main focus is on helping people with home repairs that couldn't necessarily afford those. So we work a lot with disabled folks, elderly, veterans, all sorts of different backgrounds. And we really kind of focus in on the handicap accessibility side of things. So getting wheelchair ramps built for them, getting the bathrooms set up to be handicap accessible. And we also do a lot of other repairs too. We end up doing a lot of roofing, general repairs around the house. There's different things that these folks can't afford because they're on, fixed income or just, unable to do the work themselves because of their physical capabilities and stuff. And then we also do a lot of disaster relief. So that's kind of how our conversation started a couple of weeks ago, is around that disaster relief aspect. And so we travel around after, hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, and, help people start to put their lives back together a little bit, help get the cleanup process started, help getting the homes repaired so they can, after one of those events happens, they can start getting back to a little bit of normalcy.
Yeah, I recall back in 1993, my family lost our home in the Great Flood of the Mississippi. It's like 100-year flood, and we lost absolutely everything. And there are people every day, natural disasters. If wherever you're listening to this podcast right now, you live in a place where there could be some type of natural disaster, and you're going to need an organization like the 516 Project to come in and give you a hand, because the government alone, when you have a natural disaster, like, it's all hands on deck. And it's just awesome that you're doing that line of work. I just remember, because I was a young teenager, and having the Red Cross and the National Guard and these other agencies, we lived in the basement of a church for a bit before, so we could get our feet, back on our feet again.
Yeah.
And it was just, we lost absolutely everything. And it's such a devastating time. And it happened so quickly. And this happens every day to Americans and really around the world. And it's just awesome that you're doing this type of work, because it's generally needed. And when you're not doing natural disaster, I just love that you're helping people in need, building ramps or helping, repair a roof. Because especially now, like, there's so many people hurting financially, and there's just a lot of people out there that could use the help. So thank you for the work that you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We love that we get to do it. And it's definitely, it's just an honor to be able to serve people and be able to help them in a time of need. So it's definitely great. And you're right. There's always some sort of disaster going on. We've been following, there's been storms the past few days out in Kansas and Oklahoma. So we've been following those stories and trying to help put some pieces together for some folks that are responding out there. And, I always kind of laugh when people say, well, what do you do when there's not a disaster? It's like, I look in the internet and find where the disaster is, because there's always something going on somewhere.
Yeah, it's like pick a location, right? Just to open up the news, you're going to find something out there. But I like that even in the local community, like, there's disasters happening within your community. It might be a house fire, could be someone's roof falling in that, doesn't. So that's it's great. How did you ultimately, like, what drew you into doing this type of work?
Yeah, so I'd been doing it for a while. When I first started going to church, there was a group of guys that they were going out probably once a month and just helping some people in the community. And through that, we started getting a little bit more involved and doing some stuff on a fairly regular basis. And then I got connected to a disaster response group and started traveling around serving with them. And really, I really fell in love with the disaster response piece of it. It's such a unique way to serve. It's a unique way to get out and, use your talents to be able to help somebody. So I've been involved in the construction trades and stuff through most of my life, and, being able to go out and do that type of work and know that it was for more than just getting a paycheck on Friday. It was to actually help somebody put their life back together just help let them know they're not forgotten. Help them. The thing that we've always said here is that we build access to hope, and that's really what it made me feel like. It made me feel like I was helping these people find hope again. Because, like you said, everything, all their earthly possessions are gone, and so often it's in the blink of an eye. Like some of these storms, they just come quick. Some of the bigger storms, the hurricanes and stuff, you've got some warning. But a lot of these times, especially like with floods and tornadoes and things like that, it can be just a matter of minutes from the warning to when the storm actually hits. And so, you go from your normal everyday life worrying about, this at your job or that somebody said to you, or picking up the groceries, getting the kids to soccer practice, to your home is destroyed and all of your earthly possessions are gone. And that's a devastating time. So it's fulfilling and powerful to be able to be there for those people at that time and just love on them, let them know they're not forgotten, let them know, that there is still hope, and that we're going to help them, put things back together and get back on their feet.
Yeah, like I said, I recall when the floods happened, like we were living in a double wide trailer and we were watching the news. Like my neighborhood was flooded, but it's like, God, it's never gotten up to where we're at. Just never got
Mhm.
up there. And, we were incredibly poor. We didn't have flood insurance. And lo and behold, it got to a point where the flooding was so bad that there was like one levee up north of us that was kind of protecting us. And we knew if that levee was going to break, this reminds me of that Led Zeppelin song, when the levee breaks, got no place to go. That levee broke. I remember the morning that levee broke because the water started coming up. And in a matter of hours, you live in a trailer, you're a few feet up off the ground, you got the porch there. We're like standing on the porch watching the water slowly come up. And like, it's going to recede. There's no way it's going to get inside the home. And then a few hours later, it was right there at the door sill. And then it started pouring in. Like, okay, we got to evacuate now. And I just remember how woefully
Yeah.
unprepared my family was for this. We were poor. There was no insurance. We literally lost everything, like everything. Like we
Yeah.
had to go scramble to find luckily there was a church that let us sleep in their basement for a bit. And a flood, man, that ruins that. I remember coming after the flood waters finally receded, going back in, like there's nothing that you could salvage. And
Right.
that was like, I don't ever want to experience that again. That was traumatic as a young child. And so I
Yeah.
always have high regard for the National Guard and all these organizations that are doing this type of work, because every day there's something. So you mentioned that you were in the construction trades early on. So what did you do early in your life specifically?
Yeah. So I jumped around a little bit. And so, I was one of those people that I made it to about my sophomore year in high school and realized that, the whole education college route was just not where I was headed. I mean, I got good grades, everything was fine like that, but I had no desire no desire to go to college, and I kept on thinking like, okay, why am I spending all this money to go to college? What am I going to do with it? And, nothing made sense. I had been working, part-time jobs and stuff in the evenings and weekends with several construction companies, and really enjoyed that type of work. Really enjoyed being able to work with my hands, and being able to go in there and you start work, and then by the end of the day you look back and you think, wow, I helped to build that. I helped create that, and so it just was always really fulfilling to me. And so made that decision that, hey, I'm going to work. I'm not going the college route. And so I did work for a number of different contractors, and and in all kinds of different capacities, which was really neat, especially as a young guy, to get some different experience, get some different hands-on training and stuff. Um, and one thing, if you know much about the construction industry, um, this was early 2000s. I graduated high school in 2000, and so construction industry was pretty much booming at that point. And if in the construction industry, if you show up to work on time and you're sober, you're going to get promoted pretty quickly. Uh, so um, I very quickly I worked my way up to where I was a supervisor, and I was managing multiple projects and things like this. Um, and in my head it was crazy, because I'm like, man, there's guys that are working for me that have a whole lot more experience. They've been swinging a hammer a lot longer and all this sort of stuff. but I just had a good work ethic. I enjoyed working. I really did. I still do to this day. It's probably a little bit of a character fault at sometimes because it can lead to a little bit of overworking. Um, but I enjoyed it. And I showed up on time. I did what I was supposed to do. Made sure that if I had an assignment, I fulfilled that assignment and then some. And so, like I said, every company that I worked for, I ended up getting promoted pretty quickly. And so it was just I was able to get a lot of experience and able to really I was able to learn a lot about different trades, different parts of the construction process. And so as I got older and decided, hey, I want to go out and do something on my own. So I've had two companies of my own at this point, and both of those were kind of more on the handyman side of things, just doing general repairs and small remodels and stuff like that. Um, and then I got into volunteering with the fire department through a guy that I met that I worked with, and so that also kind of got me into that whole serving people and helping people aspect of things. Um, Through that, I ended up applying and got hired. So I actually was a professional firefighter for 10 years in Henrico County. And, there again, just being able to take the skills that I had and the talents that I had and be able to serve other people, it really, that just kept resonating with me and resonating with me. And then as I started getting involved with church and getting stronger in my faith and understanding what God was doing in my life, everything kind of came together. And I was like, wait a minute, here's a way that I can use these talents that I've had, that I can use this training that I've had, put all that together and create an organization that's not only going to serve physical needs, but also serve emotional needs and spiritual needs. And so that's kind of, all that stuff sort of compiled together to get us to the point of where, I started 516 Project and am able to really be able to use all the different facets of my life and the stuff that led up to now and put it into one basket and really be able to serve people.
Now, I love that. I think you hit on a couple things that I think about as people. We need creative expression. I think humans were designed
Mhm.
for a purpose, and when you can build and create, like for you, it was building trades and construction. For someone else, it could be baking cakes and being a baker, or I think of Lacey being a graphic designer. She really gets a lot of joy out of creating things. We all need to be able to find something that we can create, and you find service in creating these things, and the spiritual component of all that, because I know that in my life, like I feel the presence of God and wanting to be connected with God when I am in dire straits. People find Jesus pretty
Mhm.
quick in those moments. So being able to serve not only with your craft and creating things, but being able to serve when people are spiritually in need and emotionally in need, I think that's really powerful.
Yeah, it
How,
is. And it's,
okay.
it's definitely, you can, like you said, we weren't, we weren't designed to just sit around. There's no part of the human experience where it's just let's just sit around and twiddle our thumbs. That just doesn't it doesn't work. And every one of us has those different talents, those different gifts in our lives that we can use. And so it's just a matter of figuring out how you can piece those things together. And in the business world, that's one thing that I always looked at. Was like, okay, how can I take what I know and what somebody else's problem is and bring those two together so that I can fix their problem, they can have a better life, and then they can pay me, and it all works out.
Yeah. I think that's we live in a time where mental health issues are pretty. There's a lot of mental health issues, and I think a lot of that has to do with a lot of people are going the college route, or they're just not. It's hard to find someone that's wrenching on cars anymore, or being a plumber, or
Mhm.
creating or building things anymore. I really like what I listen to Mike Rowe quite a bit, and talking about
Yeah,
bringing the blue collar trades back. That's what made our country
yeah,
great, and we really for a few decades really deviated away from that. And I think that we're starting to feel some of the effects of
yeah.
that, because I think not everyone is cut out for college and to work in the service industry, but we're pressured a
Oh,
lot to go
absolutely.
that route. And there's nothing. I remember when I went to tech school in high school, it was almost like we were kind of the oddball kids on the fringe because we went to tech school. I remember that, and I went to the electronics
Yeah.
program. We had building trades and we had mechanics or whatnot. And I don't know. I look back at that. I'm like, I wish there was more emphasis placed on that because I think that everyone has a place. Everyone has something that they can do. Not everyone's cut out for college.
Yeah, and we went through, I think, as uh, I guess as America on the whole, we went through several decades um, where college was really, really pushed, and I think
Hmm.
there was a time where yes, I think college was very beneficial and definitely led to better things in life. Um, my personal opinion is we have surpassed that time. I at this point, I think in most cases, college is a waste of money, unless you have a very specific thing that you're trying to do with your life um, that needs a very specific education. Just going to college to go to college, you're wasting thousands and thousands of dollars. Um, and so, I know in the time that I was growing up, when I told my family, "Hey, I've decided I'm not going to college," I got a whole lot of big eyes and jaws dropping, and especially from my grandparents' generation, because to them that was no, 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 you have to go to college, and that was ingrained in them and the way that they looked at things. And thankfully my parents were very supportive, and I mean, we definitely had some serious conversations about, are you sure, what's the plan, what are you doing, all that sort of stuff. Um, but they supported me and were willing to say, okay, yeah, what you're saying makes sense, and you're right, if you went to college it would probably be a waste of money. I was like, yeah, that's what I thought too. um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I definitely think we went through those phases and those years where college was big time pushed as the only way to make a living and the only way to make a better life, or whatever you want to call it. And it's just not true. There are so many options out there. um, and that's one of the things that I love about I think now probably the past, I don't know, 5 even 10 years, we've really started seeing that shift and seeing the trades getting promoted more, seeing the tech schools getting promoted. Seeing, we've got programs, I know in our local school systems here, where kids are coming out of high school, they're graduating high school, with their journeyman electrician card or with their HVAC card or whatever like that. So they can go right into a job making good money and then go sit and take their master's test. And within a couple of years out of high school, they're a master electrician. And that's
Yeah.
a darn good job to have, good salary, benefits for most of the companies and stuff like that. So there's definitely a lot of great options out there for folks. And one thing too that we're seeing, I know here in our area, and I think kind of it's starting to get all over the place, is we're seeing a lot more women in the trades too. There for a long time that wasn't a big field, and so that's really great to see too. We're getting women involved in the trades. I know, like I said, the trade school here, they came out and did a project with us a couple months ago, and there were several young ladies in the class that came out and were working right there with us and everything, and just crushing it. So it's definitely great it's great to see the focus on trades and see that people are understanding that there is more than there's more than college to being able to make a living, to being able to have a good career. Um, and like I said, those jobs are always needed. I made some jokes during the whole COVID shutdown thing, but it was true. It's like, I was saying, like, if you're in college or high school right now so this was in 2020, like if you're in high school right now, take a look around at who is working today. In
Hmm.
June of 2020, when everything was shut down, who was working? Your plumbers, your electricians, your HVAC, all those guys were still going to work every single day, still getting paid, and a lot of them making really good money because there were so
Hmm.
many other people that weren't working. Um, so that shows you right there. These things are needed in our society, and we've got to have a focus on getting people into the trades, getting people working, and making our world go around. That's what If we don't have plumbers and electricians, we're sunk.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All of those roles are incredibly important. So let's talk about 516 and starting a nonprofit. Like, what were some of the, I guess, let's start. When did you start the 516 project? And when did you go like all in on it, like doing it full time?
Yeah. So officially started in February of 2016. So we actually it was the fall of 2015 where it kind of was birthed, and was actually, we were sitting in a Sunday school class, and we had recently started going. We had moved, and we recently started going to a new church. And one of the ladies in the Sunday school class we were sitting in said, "Well, hey, the holidays are coming." This was in probably end of August, very beginning of September. Said, "Hey, the holidays are coming up. Let's do some kind of a service project as a class." Um, and so, I raised my hand. I was like, "Well, hey, I've got some experience doing X, Y, and Z because I've been involved in these service projects with our previous church." So if you're familiar with small Baptist church, when you raise your hand, you're in charge. It's like automatic. um, and so it was just that. I was like, "Oh, well, great. Well, you can be in charge of this." And I'm sitting there thinking, "Oh, shoot, what did I just sign up for?" um, but another instance of one of those things where God just lines everything up and makes it happen. By the time we left church that day, we had a number of people in that small group and in the church in general that were saying, "Hey, heard y'all are going to do some sort of service project. We're all in. We want to help." Had a couple people that said, "Hey, I know this lady that could really use some help. She's elderly. She needs this. She needs that. Whatever." So like I said, by the time we left church that day, we already had two families that needed some repairs, and we had about 10 people that said they wanted to help. So I was like, "All right, let's make it happen." So we pulled those people together and had a meeting and said, "Hey, here's what I've done in the past. Here's what I think we can do here." And we ended up setting a work day for that next November. So about a month and a half later, and that first work day, we ended up with about 30 people volunteering, and we worked on 10 different houses. And so, I went home that evening, and I was talking to my wife, and I was like, there's something to this. Like, this isn't just a one-time thing. There's got to be more to this. Um, and it was God moment after God moment after God moment of people and events happening. So I hadn't really made this some huge public thing per se. And that next week, I got a call from a friend of mine, and she said, "Hey, heard you're thinking about starting a nonprofit. Talk to my friend so and so. He's going to kind of help you walk through the process." I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool." So I call him up. He's a lawyer, and he starts going on. "Okay, I need you to fill this out, sign this, do this." I'm like, "Time out, man. Like, you have the word lawyer in your name. I need to know the dollar
Yeah.
figure."
Yeah. Yep.
I'm like, "Yeah, I get you." And he says, "No, man." He said, "I believe in what you're doing. I think this is awesome." He says, "I got you covered. All you got to do is pay, the fees on when you apply to set up a nonprofit. There's some application fees with the IRS and all that sort of stuff." He's like, "If you can cover those fees," he's like, "I'm not charging you a dime." It's like, "All right, cool." So I said, "Well, so we got everything set," and I said, "All right, give me some time to get the money together to pay all these fees." And next day, I get another phone call, and it's a guy I knew through the Chamber of Commerce, and he says, "Hey, man, I heard what you're doing. Want to take you to lunch, talk to you about it." So we go have lunch, talk about it, tell him kind of what my vision is for everything, and he calls me up probably, I don't know, 2 3 days later. Says, "Hey, man, appreciate you meet with me. Really love what you're doing. Swing by my office. I got a check to help you get things started." So go by his office, grab the check, and it's the exact amount of all the fees for the government filings and everything. So
And
call the lawyer
he
back. I'm
didn't
like,
know.
"All right, we're good to go."
He didn't know what those fees were going to
No,
be. It just going to happen to magically happen
no,
there.
not
And
no.
it's
I
amazing how
hadn't.
the
I
universe and
hadn't told
God
him, "Hey,
works
I
that
need
way.
exactly." Yeah, I hadn't said anything about, "Hey, I need exactly this much to get started," or anything. Um, so yeah, so that happened, and so we got the ball rolling, and there we were the following February. So less than 6 months. What's that? Like 4 months later, and we've got our 501(c)(3) status, and we're off to the races. Um, but yeah, so at that point, I was still working full time. Of course, had family, got young kids at home and everything. And so in my head, it was just going to be like a little side project. It was just going to be, "Hey, this will be something great. We can help a few families here and there." Wouldn't even, at that point, I didn't even envision it being a full-time thing. Um, so that first year, throughout all of 2016, we ended up serving 12 families. And I thought, "Man, this is awesome. Like, if you average it out, it's a family a month. That's great. We can just keep doing that. That'll be so great." Well, then, 2017, we served 30 families. I'm like, wow, this thing's really taken off. Like we just doubled what we did from last year, you know. And it kept going and kept going. And so I was working for my family's business at that time. 2018 comes along, and I keep on. I mean, ever since 2013, I kept on having this nudge of, man, this is what you're supposed to do. This is what you're supposed to do, and I kept on pushing it off because I was like, man, that's just crazy. I was in Laplace, Louisiana after one of the hurricane. I forget which hurricane it was. That was in 2013 was the first time I've never heard God's voice audibly, but that was one of those times where it's like, man, did somebody just say that, or am I thinking like it was just weird. I'll be honest, it was weird. But it was like, hey, this is what you're doing. This is what you're supposed to do. And so, here we are getting into 2018 years later, and I still just am constantly having that feeling of, man, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And so I walked in, I was working for my family's business. I walked into my mom's office in July of 2018, and I said, Mom, I gotta go. This isn't what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm done. And she looks at me. She's like, well, okay. Like I'll see you tomorrow. Like, hope you're all right. And I was like, no, you don't understand. Like I'm quitting. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I've got to go do this, this ministry full time. And, there again, she's like, okay, we'll talk tomorrow. It's fine. We'll talk tomorrow, but yeah. And so from July of 2018 through now, I've been doing it full time. And it's been incredible, man. It's the people that we're able to
What did
serve,
your
the
oh,
things that have. Go ahead.
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was gonna say, when your mom finally realized, like, how long did that take? What was that conversation like when she was just like, oh, this is real. He's leaving the family business.
Yeah, no, I think, I mean, we talked the next day, and I think it was clicking, but and it was probably a couple months before it was really like, oh, okay, this is for real. It
Yeah.
was, and she's, since then, I mean, she's been incredibly supportive. I mean, she volunteers with us sometimes and stuff. But yeah, it was a couple months before she really was able to kind of sit back and say, okay, this is what's happening.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned that there was some resistance, right? Like you felt the calling, but you were scared. And so many people that are listening to us talk right now, we have a big idea. Maybe we've started this
Mhm.
idea and we're called to it. What were some of the fears that you were facing that just kind of kept you doing what you were doing?
All of them, man. You know, there's so many things, and I think the biggest was the financial piece of things. It's like, like I said, I'm married, I've got young kids, and as far as my wife works, but the career that she works for the school system at the time, she was a teacher, and so they're definitely not breaking the bank, bringing big money home. And so I was the main breadwinner as far as salary goes. So there's that piece of it. There's that piece of comfort. We get into something, we're like, okay, this is comfortable. Like I know what's going on. I know what the next step is. A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. Like we just keep kind of trudging through life. And so there was that comfort piece of it. There was the piece of it. It seemed crazy. Like how and I know not everybody watching this is Christian or whatever, but if you're a Christian and you read through the Bible, and you see the opportunities and times where God has used all sorts of weird circumstances to make things happen. But I still, and even today I still struggle with it. But I still in my head thinking like, man, how in the world could God use me? Like I have screwed up so much stuff, done so much stuff wrong. Like there's no way that God could use me. And that's just total junk. That's just lies that we fill our head with that are totally not true. But it's still, it's still there. And so yeah, so it was all those, like all kinds of emotions come into that, man, all kinds of different thought processes of, oh, well, what if I fail, and what if this and what if that? You can just what if something to death. And I think that's what it was. It was just, all those things were compounding. Um, and it was finally, as I got into, that 2018, it just finally kind of all exploded. And I was like, forget it. I don't care what I'm afraid of. I've got to go after this. It's been knocking at the door too many times for something not to be right about this. I've got to just jump. Um, and so, I say just jump after what, 6 years, but still, like, it just got to that point where it's like, all right, that's enough. Like this has to be something, because it keeps on showing up. It keeps on popping up. So I've got to try it.
Hmm. What did your wife think when you told her? Because, like you said, the safety, the comfort of having a steady paycheck and income, then you drop the ball on your wife, like, I got to do this thing. Well, how did she receive that?
Well, and the best part of that is I literally dropped the ball on my wife about the same way I did on my mom. Like, I literally showed up at home and told her, "Oh, by the way, I quit my job today." So it in marriage, you should have discussions and you should talk about things, especially when you're making major decisions. That did not happen in this case. Um, so yeah, so I mean, she knew we had talked about it over those years, so she knew that seed was in there. But it had not been a discussion of, oh, hey, honey, by the way, next week I'm going to be doing this. It definitely was. I got home, I'm like, oh, by the way. Um, but no, she's been very supportive of it, and uh, it took some getting used to, because there was time where um, there was a time where I had basically no income, and then since then I've been able to build up donors that are helping to support our family and everything. So it's gotten better, but yeah, it definitely there was some time in there of, okay, how is this working, and why did you tell your mom that you weren't coming back to work?
Yeah, I think bridging the gap. Anytime that you're like in transition, like I'm a transitioning veteran. I've worked with a lot of transitioning veterans. You've been doing. You've been. You have this comfort of knowing that you're going to have a paycheck. You know what
Yeah.
to expect, and then you step out into something completely new, especially in a space where nothing is guaranteed. You're the leader, and you got to make it happen. And that drive for necessity will really like amplify your abilities, and that's how you bridge that gap. And what was the biggest challenge that you had early on trying to bridge that gap?
Really, it was that fear of well, I guess it was more the understanding that money's out there. In my head, and I think this comes from having owned my own businesses, and having grown up in a family that ran a business, and everything. Um, in my head, money wasn't a faith thing. Money was I have to go make money. I have to do everything was I have to do X in order for money to come in the door. Um, and so it really taught me that money's there. God's got everything in the world under His umbrella, and we're just stewards of whatever He puts into our little window of time. Um, and so being able to make that realization, understand, okay, it's there. I've just got to figure out how I can be a good steward of what I'm trusted with, and make the most out of that, make the most happen out of that. Um, and so once I got over, once I got past that fear of really the fear of having money, it's been fine. That was the biggest fear I had, was how do I get the dollars to pay the mortgage, to pay for the food for the kids, to pay for their soccer team, whatever it was. But once I got past that and started, being comfortable saying, hey, here's my situation, here's how I make a living, and can you support me? It's been, it just smoothed out, and now I'm able to make a living that's comfortable, that pays for our family, and we don't have to. I won't say that I don't worry about money. I still do. I mean, I think that's part of being part of adulting, or whatever. Um, but I just got comfortable knowing that, okay, next Friday, even when I had that guarantee, okay, every Friday I'm going to get, X dollars in my check because I'm working and that's what I get. When you really look at it, even that's not guaranteed. I mean, there's so many things that can happen between this Monday and next Friday. But in our heads, there again, we get that comfort level. We just think that it's this guaranteed thing. It's really not. And so when you start to realize that, okay, none of it was guaranteed to begin with, and now it just looks different, then I was okay.
I think that's how a lot of people get stuck. That's how they get trapped in the rat race, if you will, is they think that there's some type of security in that just
Hmm.
regular paycheck. I felt that. I mean, that's why I stayed in the military for a long time. And Joe Rogan talks about it like the you got these honey pots that are set out for you to keep you in place and to give you that blanket of security. But in all reality, like you
Yeah.
said, this is something that I've learned. It's people fear the lack of resources, but if you're resourceful, and I truly believe if you give in the world, you give into the universe, you give, like it comes back to you. God, the universe will bless
Yeah.
you. And it's biblical that the better steward you are of resources and the more giving you are, the more that will return. And as I have
Hmm.
interviewed and had conversation with incredibly successful people, they say the same thing. Like the giving aspect is incredibly important. And that's one thing in our society. It's like we almost demonize like wealthy people, but most wealthy people are incredibly generous. And
Yeah.
and there's something to that for sure. And so it's about being resourceful.
Yeah.
So it sounds like, I
Absolutely.
mean, you had to have that mindset shift of, that breakaway, which is there's people listening to us right now that have a great idea, or maybe they've got their foot on one side, they get their foot out the door, wanting to make that leap. What advice would you give someone that is feeling that right now? They maybe they have a big idea, or maybe they got their foot like at a job, but they kind of started this thing on the side, but they want to make the leap, but they're scared. What advice would you give them?
Jump.
Make the jump.
Um, but yeah, but seriously, I mean, I don't know. There are so many ways, and I think that's one of the things. There are in today's society there are so many ways that you can get your idea out there. And so if you've got if whether it's some sort of product you want to make or invent or a business you want to start or whatever it is, you know there are ways to do it. We've got, I mean, every one of us pretty much has one of these in our pocket. You've got access to the entire world in the palm of your hand. There are so many things you can do right from that cell phone to get your information out there, to talk to people, let them know what you're doing. Um, the biggest thing, with anything that you're thinking of doing, with ideas, anything like that, find some people that you can trust, that believe in you, and won't just say, oh yeah, that's great, oh yeah, that's great, but that'll give you some constructive feedback and help, and that will say, hey, that part of your idea is awesome, that part of your idea sucks, what if you tried this and put that in there, and get, like we have with the Forge, get a mastermind, get people around you that are willing to tell you the truth. They're not just going to be yes men and tell you what you want to hear, but they're willing to tell you the truth and help you build it. I'm a big fan of not doing it alone, and it's so easy to get yourself boxed in, and have that fear of, I'm the only one that understands this. Nobody understands what I'm doing. Nobody understands me. Nobody understands how I feel or what I want to do. And it's real easy to box yourself in on that. Um, if you can step out of that box and find those people around you that are willing to pour into your life and be truthful with you, and not BS you, and not just say, oh yeah, that's great, oh yeah, that's great, and just blow everything up. But you get those people that will be real with you, and then say, okay, here, this part's great, that part sucks. Let's figure this out. Let's plug this in, and really round table it and build it. You can do some incredible things. Um, but
Absolutely.
but really, I mean, I think that's the biggest piece of it, is just jump. Just say, you've got to come to that line in the sand where you say, hey, I'm either going for it, or I'm saying I'm washing it away. And you have to pick. If at some point you have to pick, am I staying with the comfort, and I'm staying with that check that I get every Friday, and I'm staying with making sure that I dot my T's and cross my I's, or am I going to say, forget it, I have this dream, I'm chasing after this dream 100%, and just going for it.
Yeah, and we talk about doing hard things, chasing after your dreams and taking that leap of faith. Like, you shouldn't do it recklessly, but if you're
Right.
resourceful, like you mentioned, you have the right people around you. I'm telling you, for most entrepreneurs or people that are going out and breaking free from the 9 to 5, the common theme that I find is they're double down on the mindset work, because you're going to have challenging
Mhm.
days. You're going to question yourself. So it is important that you have a tribe of people around you that are going to push you, help share strategies, help give you resources, do the mindset work. So when you do have a doubt, like, you can combat the negative, because you're going to have tough days. It's a different, so
Oh yeah.
everyone that I know that are doing that type of work, that they're going at it alone, whether they're leading a nonprofit or they're in the entrepreneurial space, the successful ones, truly successful ones, really focus in on the mindset work. And I think that's incredibly important.
Yeah.
And you definitely
The
highlight
mindset
that.
work, and like I said, when I first was getting things going, I mean, there was definitely people around me helping, but there was a lot that I was doing on my own solo. And the more I was able to get people involved that believed in the mission and the vision that we have, and take some of those things off of my plate. So because I always use the analogy of the views. And so, when you first start with something, an idea or a business or whatever, you're kind of in that 100-foot view. You're right smack in the middle of it, and you're walking, and trees are just smacking you in the face. But then, as you can build that team around you and get people that are taking on different tasks and helping grow different pieces of it, you're able to get further and further, up, so you can view the whole picture. And so, you want to get from where, when you start and you're in that, everything's right in front of your face. But then when you can get where you're up above and you can kind of look over everything, and you can start moving the pieces and controlling things, and having people in places that, okay, hey, this person has a really good talent at doing this. Let's get them over here working on this piece of it. And this person is really talented at this. Let's get them over here working on this piece of it. And then, you can start doing stuff like that, man. You can make amazing things happen real quick.
Yeah. It goes back to leadership. Like, the moment that you volunteered at church to take on, the side project, and it's like everyone, I think in our society, we're so starved for leadership, and we need people to step up into those roles. And that's really what you're talking about, is like being an effective leader. Like, you transition to 516, and you realize when you start to delegate things and you have a compelling vision, like, you have an amazing organization where people are wanting to help, whether it's donating, whether
Mhm.
it's giving their time or using their talent and ability. And sometimes, as a leader, you're gonna have to, like, break free and let some of that go and train the team, and you'll get more done. And I think that's important.
Yeah,
Um, so you're
absolutely.
you, you're a- you you've been a leader from day one in this thing, and really organizing this thing, which is awesome. What are some of the challenges, maybe some of the nuanced challenges in the nonprofit world from a leadership perspective, that you weren't aware of, that you would face? Maybe something that kind of surprised you.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I've learned, probably I don't know, I guess, like, if I had to boil it all down to one little nugget, is that a nonprofit is a tax designation, not a business plan. Um, and I totally stole that quote, but I sat down and met with a guy that he had been the CEO of a pretty large nonprofit here in Virginia. And I sat down with him, it's probably 2018, yeah, it was the end of 18, maybe right at the beginning of 2019. And it was one of those times where I knew that I needed to I knew that I needed input from people in order to help this thing grow. And so I had kind of a random connection with him through another person. And so I just said, well, shoot, he's retired now. I'm going to reach out to him and see if he'd be willing to meet with me. And so shot him an email, and sure enough, he responded and said, yeah, I'd love to talk to you. Um, but that's one, as we're sitting there talking, that was, 'cause he kept on asking me about my business and plans and all this sort of stuff. I'm thinking, I told this guy I was running a nonprofit. What is he talking about? you know, um, and because in my head, a nonprofit was a nonprofit and a business was a business. Um,
Mhm.
And that was the best nugget that he could have told me that day. Was he looked right at me. He said, James, he said, a nonprofit 501c3 is an IRS designation. It is not your business plan. And that was one of those, smack you upside the head light bulb moments where I was like, okay, I've got to look at this. Yes, we are a nonprofit, but I've got to look at it as a business, and I've got to have a plan of what we're doing, how we're doing it, why we're doing it, when we're doing it, all that sort of stuff. And I mean, we literally, I went back to we've got a board of directors. I went back to them that next week. I said, look, we got to sit down and we got to go through this stuff, and we've got to come up with a plan. Um, and since that time to now, the growth has been just exponential from that time, previous to that. And really, and it was because of that. It was because of taking and looking at it as a business and looking at it as, hey, what is the plan here? What's the next step? What's the next step after that? And it's like we do in the Forge all the time, talking about, hey, what's your next three steps? Okay, what's the
Mm-hmm.
next three after that? And so when we really started breaking it down, that was the biggest thing that moved us forward, and like I said, really exponentially made the organization grow, which has allowed us to serve a whole lot more people than we were able to serve, prior to that.
Yeah, seeing you guys blow up, it's been awesome to see the journey that you're on, and I think that's excellent advice and wisdom. I've never heard it said like that before. Is that's just merely a tax designation, and you still have to
Yeah.
manage it and lead it the same. All the
Yeah.
same
Well,
principles
because
are still applied.
before, yeah, I mean, because before that, I was literally like, whenever somebody would say, well, what's your plan? Oh, we're a nonprofit. Well, that's not a plan. Or they say, well, what do you do? Oh, we're a nonprofit. Well, okay, what does that mean? The only people that care about that is the IRS, because they want to. When you fill out tax form, you fill that in, and then you send out donation receipts, and so the people that donate get their write off, and the IRS knows what you're doing. Like that's. But outside of that, that's not a plan. That's not. There's nothing about that says where we're going, what we're doing, who we're serving. Nothing. So yeah. So when I figured that out, and then we as a team figured that out, it was a dramatic difference in what we're able to do, and how we're able to serve the number of, I mean, the number of people we've been able to serve since then is crazy. If you had told me in 2016 that we'd be serving 150 plus families in a year, I'd have told you were nuts. But last year I think we hit like 175.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What advice would you give someone that? How do I preface this question? There are a lot of people that have an idea for a nonprofit. Like, I want to start this. I want to do this. And what advice would you give someone that's considering a nonprofit?
The first thing I would say is to make sure you know exactly why. Um, that's and this goes for nonprofits and for businesses, but especially for nonprofits. If you don't have an incredibly strong why to what you're doing and a vision for what you're doing, it's not good, because you have to. It's, in the nonprofit world, you have to be able to tell other people what you're doing, why you're doing it, and who you're doing it for. And so, in doing that, you've got to be able to create a compelling vision that makes people understand, okay, hey, I want to get behind that and support it, whether it's by donating, volunteering, or whatever. Um, so that, I think, is really the key first thing. Um, and then the other thing I would say, and this kind of sounds counterintuitive, but see if somebody else is already doing it. That's one of the big things I've seen a number of people do, is they go out and they try to recreate the wheel, and you end up with two organizations doing basically the same thing. So before I started 516 Project, I looked around in our area, and because I was trying to find, okay, who else is doing home repairs, who else is helping with handicap stuff, who else is doing roofing for free, all this sort of stuff. And I found two organizations that were here. um, One of which, I talked to the person that was running at the time, and they're like, "Yeah, we're doing that. However, we're actually getting ready to stop doing that program because we're doing this stuff over here, and this other piece of our mission is more of our focal point, and so our repair program is going away." I said, "Okay, great. So not going to get involved with you guys, obviously." Um, And then there was one other organization, and so I talked to them, and their mission and my mission and goals just didn't line up and didn't make sense uh, for us to work together. Um, and they've actually since closed down as well. And so, I'm sitting there looking, I'm like, okay, well, there's nobody doing what I feel called to do. So now it's time to create something. Um, and I'm not saying like if there is somebody else doing something similar, you can't do it. I mean, you certainly still can, but I think, look at those other options. See if there's somebody that it's already doing what you want to do. See if it makes sense to partner with them, or if it makes sense to do something separate.
Yeah, you brought up two excellent points there, and I was actually trying to kind of lob up a softball to talk about your second point. But I'm reading Simon Sinek's "Start with Why" right now because I'm looking at
Yeah.
I'm working through like right now for the Do Hard Things Nation. Like I have kind of a crafted a vision mission statement, but I'm really like trying to hone in on that. So I'm like, this is a great book. I need to really hone this out and create like a complete structure for all of this because I've got a vision, but I'm trying to
Mhm.
gain some clarity because as I transition from the military, I'm going to be able to pour a lot of time into this. Like, how do I need to get to where I want to go? So for anyone out there that's that has an idea, or maybe you're part of an organization, Start with Why is an excellent book because
Mhm.
it talks about like why is Apple dominating like the cell phone space? How does Southwest dominate like the airline space and all these different organizations because they have a powerful, compelling why, and it taps into people wanting to belong. It's not just selling. It's not just like for
Yeah.
Apple. It's not just selling Apple iPods and MacBooks. They have a deeper cause, and people love that. And
Yeah.
it kind of gives you like even when the times get tough, it gives you the reason to continue to march forward because anytime that
Yeah.
you do anything worthwhile, you're going to face some levels of resistance. And so I like that you brought that up as sounding advice. And the second thing is, and I don't have the statistics in front of me, but there are a lot of duplicate nonprofits, and a lot of nonprofits are
Mhm.
struggling. Most nonprofits struggle with resources and manpower, and people have a great idea of starting a nonprofit. And like you said, you're starting essentially a business, and there's a lot
Yeah.
more like people that you probably found it as you started to you've been used to swinging hammers and working on the ground, but you're probably realizing there's a lot of like leadership work, right, that has to happen that's not doing the work that you truly are skilled at, or I don't want to say that you're not skilled at that. you know
Yeah.
you go in thinking like people want to start serving by helping dogs, and they think that they're going to be doing that
Mhm.
type of work, but the reality is when you're in leadership, you're going to be doing more of the managerial stuff and leadership work that's not always
Yeah.
sexy, and you
Right.
might be able to go into an organization that might be easier to help them rather than recreate the wheel and start something new. I guess is my point.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. There's a lot. There's definitely a lot to running. Any organization. Business or nonprofit. Well, for-profit business or nonprofit. Um, and yeah, you've got to look at all those things. So I mean, I'll use us at 516 as an example. When we first started, when projects were happening, I was the one out there swinging the hammer, doing the work, getting all the materials, doing everything. Um, Now, we've gotten to the point where I'm less doing the field work and more doing, more of the behind the scenes work and out doing the fundraising and talking to people and trying to get churches to partner with us and businesses to partner with us and, um, meeting with the families and stuff like that. And, Ryan and Steve are doing most of swinging the hammers and, doing the actual physical work. And then having the volunteers come alongside them and, actually, doing, doing the work. I should say the physical work. Um, and so yeah, there's all kinds of different pieces to it, and you have to figure out, okay, and that's what I've talked to a number of people that started nonprofits, and a couple of years into it, they fizzled out for that very reason. Like you said, started we want to help dogs and we want to help animals and do all this, but then you get to that breakover point where it's like, okay, we can do we can do the work, or we can work on the work. And it's that same thing like with business of saying, hey, you can work in your business or you can work on your business, and they're two
Hmm.
very different things. And so you have to find that point of saying, okay, which one is it really that I want to do, that I'm going to do, and how do we make it work to where it's okay? There's work happening in the business, there's work happening in the nonprofit, there's work happening on the nonprofit. We're growing things, we're building things. Because with any organization, nonprofit, for profit, whatever, if you flatline, you might as well just close it up. There's nothing, there's nothing happening. You've got to have growth in any organization to move things forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think people need to realize that when they take on that in endeavor. And so if you're considering a nonprofit, first check to see, do you truly want to start one from scratch? Because there's a lot of work that's involved in that. Can you find another organization that's already been already there? And there's a lot of nonprofits that are out there. I'm finding that in the veteran space. There's a lot of duplicate organizations. Some of them are struggling. I'm like, man, if they just pulled their resources together, they'd probably be thriving. And so that's
Yeah.
important. And I'm sure that's like that in numerous different spaces in the nonprofit world. So, what is your vision for the 516 project?
Oh man, how much more time do we have?
All
um,
the time you need, brother.
so right. So yeah, man. The short of it is, we've got a couple huge goals right now, and big vision. But my big vision right now is that we will be able to serve in all of the contiguous United States. So not that I don't love Alaska and Hawaii, but I just logistically I feel like that's going to be a problem. um, so I think maybe we'll get there one day, but right now, yes. The goal that I announced at our anniversary gala a couple weeks ago was to be able to serve in all 50, or well, excuse me, in all 48 contiguous states. Um, and doing that through our disaster response, through our wheelchair ramps, the handicap bathrooms, all that sort of stuff. Um, and so right now, our hardcore heavy focus is kind of the Southeast United States, just because that's where we have the easiest access to for the disaster relief and things like that. And then we're trying to kind of build out some teams from there. And that is definitely not that's not a short term goal. That's a long term goal. I mean, I don't foresee that we're going to be able to hit every state within the next year, 2 years, 3 years. I mean, we're looking probably the 5 to 8, maybe 10 year kind of mark. But that's the big goal. So right now, like I was talking about earlier, of having that big vision and being able to step it down into pieces and attainable chunks. Right now, for this year, our goal is to be able to hit the Southeast heavy. Like I was saying, we really want to focus on the Southeast U.S. So kind of we're based here in Fredericksburg, Virginia. So kind of over to Kentucky and then down into Mississippi, Louisiana. We started last year. We started a satellite location in Panama City, Florida, and so that's really given us a great foothold into the kind of the Gulf Coast area. And then we're talking to some folks in Tennessee, just south of Nashville, about setting up a satellite location there. So it's really cool to watch it start to come together and see these little bites that are leading toward that big picture. So yeah, but
I think you
that's
got potential around Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri here as well, because
well,
we've got
I know I was
our
talking
group.
with Jeff the other day, and Jeff started donating to us, and so when we were
Yeah,
talking
Jeff's
on
a
the
real
phone, he's
estate
like, "Yeah,
agent, and with every house that he sells, he's donating proceeds to your organization, which is outstanding.
yeah, this is awesome." But yeah, we started talking, and he's like, "Man, I'd love to, be able to serve with y'all sometime." And then he says, "Well, wait." He's like, "Actually, I know somebody that needs a wheelchair ramp." I was like, "All right, let's build him a wheelchair ramp. Let's figure it out." So we've been having that
Awesome.
conversation. So looks like we might be able to hit Missouri quicker than we thought.
Yeah, it's good, man. I think it's so awesome. So ultimately, you're going to have like little satellite units all over the country that can, work in their neighborhoods, and then if there's a disaster, they can respond. They can pull resources, and you can mobilize to those locations.
Yeah, that's the goal, is to be able to build teams in different communities all across the country, and and that's one of the to me, it's one of the beautiful things about it is that just like we were just talking about with people, starting a nonprofit or whatever, this really helps to, eliminate that whole recreating the wheel thing. Because through what we've done, we've been able to get a pretty good, a pretty good foundation. And of course, one of the unique things about any community throughout the U.S. is there's a lot of similarities and there's a lot of differences. And so I really think that with kind of some of the processes that we've made and some of the ideas that we have around it, we can really be able to go into different communities. And as long as we can find those people in that community that are passionate about it and willing to sort of grab the reins and say, yeah, I want to head this up and push it. I think we can really help them to grow a team in their area and be able to go out and serve people.
I think it's outstanding. And I know that I want to be able to help support as you grow this thing out. We're going to continue to help you because it's a worthwhile endeavor. There's a lot of nonprofits out there, but you don't know what they're doing and how they're going about it. But, I fully trust what you're doing, and you're serving and you're doing it for the right reasons. And I just remember how impactful it was to have people when I was involved in a disaster at a very young age, how critically important that work is, because we did have government assistance, but it took a while, love the government, right? But having people on the ground that can close that gap and have the flexibility and autonomy to do that, so incredibly important for our country. And we have a very giving society. It's just a matter of getting the resources where they need to go and having people on the ground to execute it. So that's why I think your work is so incredibly powerful.
Yeah, it's having that plan and having that execution in place. Because like I said, there are a ton of generous people. There are a ton of people that want to help, and it really is. It's a matter of just coordinating that all together and getting the resources, in the right place, deployed in the right way. And that's the key behind all of it.
Let me ask you this: with your experience in natural disaster areas, what is something that people tend to overlook when it comes to their preparedness? Or what tip could you give people in their own preparedness when disaster does strike? What's something people need to be aware of?
It can happen in your neighborhood. And I think that, for a lot of us that don't live in, the high probability area. So like we don't live along the coast, or we don't live on a fault line or, whatever like that. We get into this mindset of, oh, I'm probably good. There hasn't been a flood here in 50 years or 100 years or whatever. Or there hasn't been a hurricane that's come this far inland or, whatever the case may be. But just take some steps and be prepared no matter where you live and no matter what kind of area you live in, because there's some sort of disaster, and it might not be the quote unquote natural disaster. It might be something else. It might be a fire in a community that burns down several houses. I mean, I think the biggest thing that we do is we get in the mindset of disaster has to be this huge event that affects thousands of people. Well, if it only affects your family, it's still a disaster to your family. So I think of house fires. I worked, like I said, I was a professional fireman for 10 years, and that might only affect one family, but it's a disaster because it's destroyed their home and their belongings and different things. And in some cases, injuries and life are lost in those events. So the first thing I say is just be prepared no matter where you live, and try to be prepared for all sorts of different scenarios. Just a simple thing. And I don't think that, I don't feel like we all need to be preppers and have underground bunkers and stuff like that. I mean, those things can be helpful in certain circumstances, sure. But just some of the basics, there's definitely, having some flashlights, some extra batteries. Totally not a sponsor, but a total plug. Go on Amazon and order a battery daddy. It's like this battery storage thing. It's the coolest thing I've bought on Amazon. I think it was like $16. I've never been able, every time I need a battery, I'm like, where are the batteries? Now I know. It's a cool, sorry, they're not a sponsor of me. Wish they were, but anyway. But yeah, just do those simple things to have at least a little bit of preparedness. And I know within the Forge group, we've talked a lot about preparedness recently, and it's really made me think about just even some of those things of having a notebook that has some of my passwords and some of my information in it, so that if something was to happen to me, my family knows how to access things, or just having the flashlights, having the batteries, all those little things. But I would highly suggest just do some of those little things that can get you at least one little step closer to being prepared for something to happen that goes against your daily flow of things. Um, and beyond that, I'd say, be aware of what's available in your community. Every community is a little bit different as far as how they are prepared for, or how they are planning for any kind of disaster. So look into that stuff. Reach out to your local fire department, reach out to your local county government or city government or whatever, and find out what sort of things are in place, so that if there ever is a disaster, you already kind of start to know of who you need to be looking for, who you need to try to, where you need to try to get to, for like an evacuation center and stuff like that. Like I said, you might not use it next week or next year, but you might use it tomorrow. You never know.
Yeah. We have this blanket, we have this false sense of security just in our day to day, because most things are going really well and things are
Oh, yeah.
going, we're incredibly comfortable. But when disaster strikes, you have to have the mindset that no one's coming to save you, because, I mean, we see it time and time again, especially in large populated areas. Your fire departments, police, fire rescue, National Guard, they only have so many resources, and there's so many people that are in dire straits that can help you. So you've got to
Yeah.
you have to have some ownership of your preparedness plan.
Yeah.
And like you said, you don't
Yeah.
have to build an underground bunker, but have some extra rations. Have a plan for,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah, and
maybe
especially
I
in
need
in a
72 hours.
larger event. Yeah,
Good.
in a larger event, yeah, the local agencies are going to get overrun really quickly. So, when you start talking about the floods and tornadoes and stuff like that, like I said, there's only so many firefighters and police officers and whatever that are on duty that day, and so it's going to get overrun quick. So, yeah, having just a little bit of supply, a little bit of forethought into figuring out, okay, hey, what if this, what if that, and like I said earlier, you can what if something to death. So I certainly don't mean go crazy and think of every single possible scenario, but you can take those few steps to say, hey, I know that no matter what happens, as long as I'm alive, I can make it 48 hours with this
Yeah.
kit, or I can make it 72 hours with this kit, or whatever it is.
It's generally really, that's sufficient enough. I remember a few years ago when we had ice storms here in Missouri, power lines were down. 72 hours was about what people needed to get by. And that's a pretty good
Yep.
rule of thumb. Now, there's some people, they
Yeah.
have a whole year's worth of food. I don't know that you necessarily need that much, but 72 hours is a good rule of thumb. It's a good place to start. Doesn't take that much
Yeah.
prep to do
Yeah,
that.
that's been my kind of go-to is, 48 to 72 hours, that'll at least get you beyond the initial shock of the event. And at that point, some things are starting to take place. Agencies are starting to come in, whatever. So yeah, so if you can get yourself to where, hey, if I can grab hold of this box or this bag, and I can survive for 72 hours, and yeah, you're not going to be surviving in the Hilton. I mean, you might be eating granola bars all day, but whatever. But yeah, I think 72 hours is a great you know stamp of time to have prepared for.
There's another interesting phenomenon that happens when there's disaster is that people, they want to help. So they go in their closets and they start taking all the old clothes that they don't wear anymore. They open up their cupboards and they're dumping stuff and sending the boxes off. And what's happening in these disaster zones is
Yeah, like,
they're trying to get stuff off the streets and out of there. And meanwhile, bringing all this stuff in, they're having to organize it and sift through it. The best thing you can do to help in disaster is find an organization and send them money so they can buy resources in real time. What are your thoughts on that?
I feel like you're setting me up for this, since we talked about this in the forge, and you saw my
Because a lot
reaction
of
then.
people don't know
Man,
this. A lot of people aren't aware of this.
I know,
They
I
do
know.
it from a good
So
place, but they don't realize the logistical nightmare it's causing.
it comes, and yes, it absolutely, it 100% comes from a desire to help and to make a difference. I will say it, and I'm not going to even hold back. Stop sending your crap to disaster zones. It's a total waste. I promise you, most of that stuff ends up in a dumpster somewhere. You know, um, I see every time there's a disaster, especially if it's a big one that gets national news attention and stuff like that, you'll see all these people talking about, oh, it's stuff a truck full of this and that and this and that to send down there. Okay, that's great. You stuff this truck full of stuff. It drives down the road into the disaster area. Then what? Unless that organization has a dedicated distribution channel, that junk is ended up in a dumpster. I've seen it happen so many times because people. I mean, we've literally seen people drive from New York down to Louisiana with a U-Haul truck full of just stuff. I mean, it wasn't like they said, "Hey, we're only taking these items." They had just duffel bags and plastic bags of just all kinds of junk. We, we literally we were staying at a church in South Carolina after a flood down there. They had a truck pull up, and the guy just starts unloading stuff in the parking lot. Uninvited, like we didn't tell the guy to unload the stuff there or whatever. Pastor from the church goes out and's like, "Hey man, you can't put." He's like, "Oh yeah, these are donations. I'll help you guys." Whatever. So he unloads stuff. There was literally bags of dirty clothes, like had not been washed. Dirty. Anyway. So yes, the best thing you can do, when you send stuff, it clogs up the whole scenario. And you'll hear people say the argument, well, if somebody lost everything, anything's better than nothing. No, it's not. It actually makes it worse. Imagine for a second your entire life has just been turned upside down. All your possessions are gone, and you're staying in a church auditorium, a community center, on a cot, whatever. And then somebody hands you a bag of clothes that probably don't fit you, that, who knows what's in there, whatever. All it does is add stress and adds another layer of stress to the lives of these people that have already had their lives turned upside down. So yeah, if you want to help in a disaster area, if you're not willing to send cash to an organization to help them do it, then go buy gift cards and have somebody that's going to serve in that area take those gift cards and hand them out. Home Depot gift cards, Walmart gift cards, Target gift cards. I mean, those places are everywhere. Those are huge because that way those people can go and get the supplies they actually need, and that will actually make a difference in their lives. Like Jay said, find an organization. I mean, obviously, if we're responding, I'd love for you to support 516 Project, but there are a lot of great organizations that respond in disasters. Find one of those that you believe in, that you trust, and donate to them so that they can do more good in that area. That is huge. But yeah, don't send your crap to disaster areas. I feel I need to make like a sign and just don't send your crap. And yeah,
Yeah. I remember it just on deployments too, because there's organizations that will send over just random stuff from people, and it comes from a place of. But I remember one Christmas. This is when I was in Iraq. I just had a Christmas tree. We had boxes of literally had boxes and boxes of toothbrushes. We didn't have enough teeth for all those toothbrushes, and I had a Christmas tree that was just decorated with toothbrushes, and
nice.
ultimately all those toothbrushes ended up in the trash. It was nice sentiment. Don't get me wrong. But ultimately, when it dollar wise and resource wise, because we're trying to distribute in a war zone, it's not going to be even, same thing in a disaster zone. It's just not going to be, it comes from a place of love, but it's not effective, as effective as, gift cards and cash and helping out organizations.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, money goes into local economy too. And it's really helping those businesses sustain during this disaster. So that's the best way to help.
That makes a huge difference. And, and like I said, there's a lot of organizations out there that have good distribution channels set up that can bring goods into the area. But the two things is, like I said, they have a distribution channel set up and they know what goods are needed. That's the key thing. Like, I mean, even when we were in Kentucky after the hurricane, I had people call me, hey, we want to send you a truckload of, I had I forget which company it was that, but anyway, they called us up and they were like, hey, we want to send a tractor trailer full of bottled water to you. Where do you want us to bring it? I was like, actually, you need to call somebody else because we've got, 6 pallets of bottled water sitting right here that we're not even going to go through yet. So we don't have any need for it. Send it somewhere else. So yes, it's finding the people that have that distribution channel set and know what is needed in that area that can make a difference. That's going to be so much more impactful and so much more helpful than just sending random stuff.
Yeah. No, I want to highlight that because a lot of people aren't aware of that and how I know you're very passionate about this topic.
I could go on. Give me a soapbox. Let's go.
So We need to start wrapping this thing up. So toward the end of the show, I always ask some high performing habits. One of my favorite questions is, what book have you gifted the most or has made the biggest impact on you?
So probably there's two of them. One is Entree Leadership by Dave
Oh, that's a
Brandt.
good one. Yep.
That was a good one. I read that one a number of years ago, and it really helped to reframe the way I looked at a lot of things as far as business and leadership and everything. Um, and then the other one, since getting into the nonprofit space, I think I've given this book to almost every nonprofit leader I know now. It's called The God Ask. Um, and it's all about kind of like what I was talking about earlier, just reshaping our mind around the nonprofit world and what it means to ask for money in order to help advance our mission. Um, it's a great book, and it really did. It took me from I really had that kind of poverty mindset around, oh, I'm in the mission field, I have to be poor and I can't have anything nice. And, if I bought a new car, I have to be able to justify it there. No, I don't. If I bought a new car because I had the money to buy a new car, then I'm gonna buy a daggone new car, you
Yeah.
know. But it really helped to reshape my thinking around finances and being in mission related and ministry related work. So I've given that one to shoot probably 15, 20 people at this point.
Yeah, there's a lot of mindset around money that needs to be broken, that
Oh
abundance
man,
versus scarcity type
we we
mindset. And
we
the
as a
whole bucket of that.
society, I think as an American society, and I'll say specifically um, as Christians, we have a jacked up view of money. We really put money up on this pedestal that it should not be on. Um, and we have, so many people, oh, money is the root of all evil. No, it's not. Money is a wonderful thing. Loving that money is the root of all evil. If you read that whole, you gotta read the whole thing. You can't chunk out that little piece of
Yeah.
that verse. Um, and yeah, we put way too much focus on money and put it up on this pedestal that it ain't supposed to be on. Money's a tool. That's all. Money and a hammer are no different. They are tools. And when we can make that recognition and understand that I can use this money to do certain things to advance my mission, and I can use this hammer to do certain things to advance. They're the same thing.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, that's a whole other
Absolutely.
box.
Yeah, it'll amplify who you are as a person. If you're a good person or if you're a bad person, it just amplifies who you are. And like you said, it's just a tool, just a
Yeah.
tool. And there's a lot more of it out there than people realize. When
Oh yeah.
people with a scarcity mindset, I know that was a big breakthrough for me, especially starting and getting into the business realm of things. There's a lot more money out there than you realize,
Yeah.
but so
Yeah.
many people are.
Especially in the for-profit world, you have to be real careful not to. Well, in the nonprofit world too, but you have to be real careful not to look at things through your budget. I was bad. Like when I was in the for-profit world, and especially when I was in more of a sales role with companies, I was really bad about thinking, "Oh man, I can't send this quote over to this client because that's just way too much money." But then I'd send them the quote, and they'd say, "Oh, that's a great deal. I'll do that." And but because I was looking at it through in my mind, $20,000 was a lot of money, but to them, $20,000 was chump change. You know,
Mhm.
so
Yep.
you definitely have to be careful about how you view money and the lens that you view it through.
Yep. And money, it's like putting wind in the sail. It enables you to whatever it is that you're doing. Like you got a mission, the
Mhm.
more resources you have, the more you can serve and help other people.
Yep, yep. Yeah, that's what I kind of jokingly say it, but it's so true. People will say, well, "Yeah, well, what do you need? People and money." Like,
Yep.
really, that's what makes this organization and any organization run. We've got to have the people that are willing to do the work, and we've got to have the finances to get the materials and make all this stuff happen. That's really, ultimately, that's what it boils down to.
Second question I have, high performance. You've been involved in the Forge. How has the Forge benefited you?
So yeah, definitely. Oh, it's been incredible, man. I mean, one, having access to you, all the time is great. I can give you a call or text message and run ideas by you. And really, and having that group. I mean, there's been multiple times where I've reached out to different people in the group to, because I'll know that, oh, hey, I remember, Craig is into this type of thing, so I'm gonna talk to him and ask him a question about that. Or Jeff knows about this, I'm gonna give him a shout and ask him about this. So just being able to have that group of people that I mean, we all come from different backgrounds, have different skill sets, and been able to hash some ideas out, and even just having those people to check in with. There's been multiple days where I'll post something on Facebook that maybe comes across as a little. I mean, I'll be honest. I had a couple days here recently where I was feeling kind of down and not in a great place, and multiple people from the group said, "Hey, man, I saw you posted about not feeling great, doing okay," and they called. I had got several phone calls and text messages and stuff. So yeah, so being part of a group, whether it's a mastermind or whatever, is definitely huge. And I'd say in particular with the Forge, we've really from the first day I joined it. I mean, I've felt like family. It's been really cool. Like when you and Lacey came and we had lunch together, I felt like we had known each other all our lives. It was just like
That's
we were
awesome.
catching up old friends.
Yeah. No, it's powerful to have a dynamic unit like that, right? Like a tribe of people, if you will, that are all like-minded. We share our wins, we share our struggles. I mean, I share things in that group that I don't share anywhere else because we have
Mhm.
that level of trust in there. So, a lot of people never participated in it. Whether you join the Forge, find a group of that caliber, of that type, and go
Yeah.
join one. It will fundamentally change your life, and you need people like that in your corner. Well, we're approaching an hour and a half, and I always like to hand over the mic over to my guest to ask me a final question. So, what do you got for me?
Um, what do I got for you? I should have prepared for that better. um, I got so with I know you've had a great career in the Army, and you're stepping into now really looking into the coaching and as you retire and stuff. But what's been the biggest benefit to you from coaching other people? What has been the benefit to you that you felt like, hey, I've really gained, whether it's this knowledge or this sense or whatever, from being able to work with these other people, and kind of I've been able to teach them, but what have you learned back from them?
Mm. I have learned. Wow, it feels so good to help someone unlock a problem or an issue or have a change in perspective. I think I really enjoy helping people shift their perspective because I've learned to have a different outlook on life. And I know that so many people have tunnel vision. It's just how we were raised. It
Hmm.
comes from your upbringing. It comes from just a variety of influences. But when you can shift a perspective and you see the light bulb come on for somebody and it radically changes their life in a positive way, man, there's it makes me feel so good because I know that they're trying to help people achieve their highest potential. And I know that we all have it. And I didn't know for the longest time what I wanted to do when I grew up. But I look at like, what were the things that I really enjoyed about the military? Well, it was the coaching and the leadership mentoring. It was my job as an instructor or being in command where I had influence and could help people and steer. And even all of my roles in the Army is very tunnel vision in a lot of ways. I always try to do things in a different way, a different perspective. And that's what I think made me incredibly unique and different, and made me successful in a lot of ways. And so ultimately, what have I learned? I mean, I've learned a lot about myself. It's given me a lot of confidence in myself. I was for the longest time, I didn't have a lot of, I've struggled with my own self confidence. But when I can help somebody, I don't know, it's deepen friendships.
Hmm.
Like you said, we've created a tribe and a family with people like all over the world. Like we have people like some people are like they don't even live like we've created something very unique, right? So forging those friendships and bonds and then just helping me grow as a person and an individual and having a place that I can share. I don't know if that fully answers your question, but those are the things that I have received from that. And it makes me feel really good. I love this. I mean, I absolutely love this because I know that there's so many people out there hurting and suffering. And it's a form of therapy for me because I still find myself hurting and suffering at times.
Hmm.
But I know that it takes constant work. We're humans, so we have this biological disposition to our emotional mind takes over and we got to like correct it. But when
Yeah.
I'm around other people that are on the same journey and I can help them, and then they can help me, because I get help and advice from people. I just
Mm-hmm.
have put this together and organized it, but I'm just a member, just like everyone. The mastermind, it's its own thing. It's a standalone thing. And so yeah, I kind of I don't know, does that answer your question? Kind of went all
Yeah.
over the place there on that one.
No, absolutely.
It's very fulfilling for me because it's my way of contributing and creating and serving. I'm not very good at swinging a hammer. I can do it. I'm the type of engineer in the Army that I'm the type that breaks shit and blows shit up. I don't really construct things, but this has been my talent, is being able to inspire people and coach and mentor. Like, this is my way of contributing.
Mm.
And so I get a lot of fulfillment from that, from helping people. And so I love it.
That's great.
And I truly believe that we all cross paths for a reason. And James, I'm proud that we have connected and that you're part of the tribe. And I appreciate the work that you're doing. How can people connect with you? How can they support you? What are the different, I know you got like a subscription that you're offering, like for constant support. There's numerous ways. Give us a rundown on all the ways that we can support you. Do we send, what address do we send our dirty clothes to?
Yeah. So, through the, of course, through the website, our website for 516 Project, it's just www.516project.org. And of course, you can find a lot of information on there. We're right in the middle of reworking the website a bit, so it'll be even more beneficial to you here pretty soon. It'll be a little more interactive with some stuff that's going to be coming up on there. But all the opportunities to volunteer can be found on there. The donation link can be found on there. And yeah, and like you said, that's one of the things that we're really one of the fundraising things I'm really pushing right now is to get people that are willing to donate monthly. It helps us huge because it allows us to really be able to budget a little bit better, because we kind of know, hey, this is what's coming in every month. So if you're in that position where you can say, hey, I want to support what you guys are doing, and I'm going to send you, $50 a month, $100 a month, $1,000 a month, whatever's in your budget. Definitely that would be a huge benefit to us. And of course, on social media channels, it's the 516 Project. So on Facebook and Instagram is where we're most active, and we're working on getting our YouTube channel going. We've got some stuff on there, but that's something we just got a GoPro camera, so we've been starting to play with doing some time lapse videos of different projects. So we've got like a time lapse video of a ramp build up there that's pretty cool. Cause it's, you're sitting there watching, and it's just like, bam, 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 this thing's built. It's like, oh, cool, that was awesome. And 2 minutes later, this whole ramp's built. It's like, if only we could really do it that quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'd love to have everybody follow along and, give us a like and a follow and all that good stuff. And, if you want to talk more, feel free to reach out. All the contact information's on the website. So we'd love to get you more information. And of course, if you're in our area here in Virginia and want to come out and volunteer, that would be awesome to have new folks come out and volunteer with us.
That's awesome. So yeah, so we'll put all that information in the show notes. So you can click there, reach out to James, connect with his organization. They're doing a lot of great stuff. The Do Hard Things Nation's fully on board with supporting you any way that we can. And I just appreciate your continued work, brother. Thanks for being here, sharing your wisdom today. And wish you all the best of luck, man. We're excited to see you, expand in every state in the union, to include Alaska and Hawaii. You'll get there eventually.
Yeah, that's right. Have to get a plane or something.
I'll figure it out, man. All right. Well, I appreciate you. Well, for everyone else listening out there, keep doing hard things. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Thank you for listening to today's episode of the podcast. If you like this podcast, be sure to subscribe so you're notified of future episodes. I would also love to know, what is your takeaway? What insight did you get from today's episode? You can screenshot this, send it to me on social, post it on social, tag me, and when you share like that, someone else out there may need to hear this message today. Only 10% of people are engaged in personal growth and development, and there could be a nugget here that could put someone in a positive trajectory. So feel free to share that, tag me in it. Send me a direct message, send me an email, let me know what your thoughts are. And you can connect with me on all social media. You can send me an email at j@jteeks.com. Take a moment, leave a review on iTunes. No matter if you're listening to Spotify or any other platform, like iTunes, I guess, is the gold standard for reviews, and it really goes a long way for the algorithm for people searching for personal growth and development, and it helps us go a long way. It means a lot to me that you took a couple minutes to do them. I read through all of them, and it just feels good knowing that that this show is impactful. So if you gain any value, just ask that you do that. If you want to level up, you want to take the next step in your personal growth and development, you can go to jtiegs.com, JAYTIEGS.com. We got a variety of options. We got one-on-one coaching, high performance coaching through the High Performance Institute, certified high performance coach. We've got a few different curriculums that I take people through. I also do group coaching. If you have an organization that needs a speaker, or you want a live workshop, I can come in and deliver some training to you and your organization. We also have the exclusive Forge Mastermind group that is an elite community of like-minded people that are growing together. And we have a weekly call there, and we're going to be rolling out new content for that. And then also we got apparel. So the we've got go to dohardthingsapparel.com. Get you a Do Hard Things shirt. Show the world that you do hard things. We got hoodies over there. We got hats. We got stickers. We got patches. A variety of different things, and we got a variety of different models coming out. So you can show the world that you do hard things, and you can go over there and support us that way. That'd be great. So in the meantime, thank you so much for listening. Keep doing hard things. We'll see you guys